Hi everyone, this is Amy from the Helms Academy, and today we're going to talk about our Halloween Math Roundtable recap from October 29th, 2020. So we're going to follow the same steps as always, and we're going to start by figuring out what the important information is. And I'd encourage you, if you're working on a problem that you can write on the paper or write on a scrap piece of paper, highlight, underline, or make a note of what the important information is so you know what you're working with. Then determine which operations you need, and then write out that problem using the numbers and operations, and then you can solve it. So today, let's start with word problem 1 of 4. The first one says, many of Maria's friends do not like molasses candies, so they trade them away for other Halloween loot. Since Maria likes molasses candy, she traded away 6 bags of chips, 10 candy bars, and a dozen lollipops, and got an average of 3.5 molasses candies for each item. How many molasses candies did she get in trade? So to figure out this problem, we first need to identify all the different numbers here. We see 6 bags of chips, 10 candy bars, a dozen lollipops, an average of 3.5 molasses candies, and ultimately, they're asking us how many molasses candies did she get? So let's start by figuring out how many items she traded for. So she traded 6 bags of chips, 10 candy bars, and a dozen lollipops, a dozen being 12, which is 28 items. And it says that the average that she got for each of those items was 3.5 molasses candies. So if we think about that, for every one of these items that she traded, she got about 3.5 molasses candies. So that means that our number from 28 is going to get bigger. She got more molasses candies than items that she traded. So to get a bigger number, we're going to multiply. So for all 28 of those items, she got 3.5 additional molasses candies. So we're going to multiply 28 by 3.5, and that will give us 98. So ultimately, for all those 28 things she traded in, she got 98 molasses candies. For word problem 2, it says, Selena's family grows pumpkins and sells them in October. Last October, they sold 80% of their pumpkins at $3 a piece and made an average of about $270 per day every day of the month. About how many pumpkins did they grow? Round to the nearest whole number. So here, we need to keep a lot of things in mind because there are many steps to this problem. First, we know that they sold only 80% of their pumpkins, not 100. So we'll need to keep that in mind. And then we'll need to think about how much the pumpkins cost. So they were $3 a piece, and we know that the family made $270 every day of the month. Ultimately, we need to get the number of pumpkins, but the information we have to start with is to figure out the money. So let's see. We need to know how much total they made during the month. So first we have to ask ourselves, how many days are in October? Well, there are 31 days in October. So we'll need to multiply that 270, the amount they made every day, by 31. And when we multiply those together, we get 8,370. So that's our first piece. That's how much money they made in the whole month on these pumpkins. Now, is that all of the pumpkins that they grew? No, that's just 80%. So keep that in mind. And how are we going to figure out how many pumpkins this was? Well, if we know that each pumpkin sold for $3 a piece, that means that we could divide out this total amount of money by those $3 and figure out the total number of pumpkins. And when we do that, we get 2,790. So again, the 2,790 pumpkins that they sold at $3 a piece, that's only 80% of our pumpkins. So how do we figure out what 100% is? Well, this is a good chance for us to use our skill of making a proportion. So we've looked at this before in Math Roundtable, and if you'd like some additional practice, I encourage you to look at some of our other videos from Math Roundtable where we talk about proportions. So here, our proportion is that we know 2,790 is 80% of the pumpkins. So on my parallel there, I'm going to have 2,790 parallel with the 80. And the 80 is going to be out of 100 because we know it's 80% and percentages are always out of 100. This is an equivalent fraction to the percentage of 80%. So let's take that, and then the unknown is what's 100% of the pumpkins? How many total pumpkins did we have? So that's why you see an X there underneath. We don't know what 100% will be. But when we create these fractions and proportions and show that they're equal to each other, that'll allow us to solve in a way that's going to help us to figure out the ultimate answer. So we're going to solve our proportion just like we've solved the others. We're going to multiply 2,790 by 100, and then we're going to divide that by 80. And when we do, we get X equals 3,487.5. Now we're almost done, but not quite, because the last step it tells us to do is round to the nearest whole number. So our whole numbers are everything that's before the decimal. So here we need to get rid of the decimal. And we see there's only one decimal place. It says 5. And anything 5 and up gets rounded up to the next number. So our final answer that they'd be looking for on the test is 3,488. All right, for problem 3, we're going to move from candy to pumpkins to pies. This one says, every year Celeste and Trent make pumpkin pies for the Halloween bake sale. Each pie requires about 3/4 of a pound of pumpkin, and each pumpkin usually gives about 1 kilogram. How many pumpkins will they need to make 25 pies? So in this one, right away, I see pounds and kilograms, and that's going to make an alert go off in my head that I'm going to need to translate between two types of measurement. So when I know I need to do that, that's a good clue for me to go to my resources. And one of my resources is the formula sheet. You can see down in the corner, I already put a small chunk of the HiSET formula sheet on the screen so that you can see it. And this is the section on weight. And we see there that 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. So that's going to help us to figure out what the comparison is between these amounts. So first, we need to take some of this information and figure out how much pumpkin we need. So we know that they want to make 25 pies. And we know that each pie requires 3/4 of a pound, or in decimal form, 0.75, of pumpkin to be able to get that pie. So I need to know for every pie, every 25 pies, I need 0.75, for every 1 pie, I need 0.75. And so I need to know for 25 pies, how much is that going to be? So I can multiply them together. And I get 18.75 pounds of pumpkin. Now, for 18.75 pounds of pumpkin, I need to now figure out what that is in kilograms, because the kilograms are going to help us figure out how many pumpkins we need. We know each pumpkin has 1 kilogram. There are a few ways to do this, but this is one way. I can make another proportion like we did in the last problem. I could say for 18.75 pounds of pumpkin that I need, that is 2.2 pounds to every 1 kilogram. So to figure out how much 18.75 is in kilograms, I would put my X there underneath as the variable. So to get the answer, again, we're going to cross multiply and divide. So I do 18.75 times 1 divided by 2. And that's going to give me kind of a rough number, 8.52272722727. So we're going to simplify that down, because you can't go to the grocery store most likely and say that you want 0.527272727 of a pumpkin. So if you have to buy however many pumpkins you'll need to make these pies, you're probably just going to have to round up. So the ultimate answer here is that if each pumpkin is 1 kilo and we need 8.5 kilos, then we're going to need to buy 9 pumpkins ultimately. For word problem 4 and our final word problem today, it says Andy has a number of friends who like dressing up as ghosts for Halloween. 2 years ago, 4 of his friends dressed up as ghosts, and last year that number increased by 50%. This year, the number increased by 1/3 over last year. How many of Andy's friends are dressing up as ghosts this year? So to do this, we're going to use the same skills we learned last week about percent increase. So we're going to start with what we know. And we know that 2 years ago, 4 of his friends dressed up as ghosts. But the next year after that, we saw the number increase by 50%. So to figure out what that increase amount is, we need to multiply 4 by 50%. And that's going to give us essentially 2. 50% is the same as 0.5. And multiplying by 0.5 is the same as dividing by half. So a couple of tricks to think about when you're putting together these figures. So we know that 2 more people started wearing ghost costumes last year. So if we add that to our original amount, 4, then that means we have 6 ghosts last year. Now, to figure out this year, we need to take the amount from last year, 6, and note that it increased by 1/3. Now, keep in mind, multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by the inverse, which is 3. So we can think about it in both of those ways. So 6 times 1/3, or 6 divided by 3, is 2. So that means we have 2 more to add to this year's total. So we do our last year's total, 6, add our 2 more for this year, and we get 8 people dressing up as ghosts this year. Thank you so much for solving with me today, and happy Halloween. I hope that you will check out more of our Helms Academy videos on our channel here, and you can also look at us on Instagram and on Facebook, and visit our website at helmsacademy.org.